Hello, everybody. This is going to be the materials prep video for the multi-section flatback book. So first, I'm going to start off talking about one of the handouts for this book, which is here, the multi-section flatback materials list. So there's a list of materials needed. You need binder's board, text paper, Canson or Fabriano paper for the end sheets, Bristol card for the spine, text paper for the lap component, that's just a piece of paper, mulberry for the lining and for the flange, and then a decorative paper for the covers and a strip of book cloth for the spine covering. So before I get into the list and start actually cutting the parts, I want to show you guys a different selection of books and different sizes. So I'm going to do a book that is the size that we've been doing, the 5.5 by 4.25. So this is going to be the size of my text block. I'm going to use that board that I had created earlier on in the semester to use as my template for cutting. I'm going to continue with this size, but I want to show you, and the way that the directions, not the directions, but the materials prep sheet is written, you can make any size book. So this is a multi-section flatback book. And you can see this one has more sections than we're going to sew. So you can see this is just the text pages. So we're going to be sewing together the text block, which is in here. And then we're going to be putting some end bands on. I don't know if you guys are going to do this or not, but I'll show you how to do that. And you don't have to do them, but it's an extra element that makes it look finished, the end bands. So we're going to make the text block, we're going to sew that, and then we will make a case, which is this part, which you guys have done. And then the text block gets cased in, and you can see this is actually glued down. And then we're going to stand on boards to press our book, to nip our book, since we don't have access to a nipping press this semester. So you can see that, so there's this book. This is kind of a small little miniature book. This is one that is done in a horizontal shape. This is another one that's vertical structure. And then here's another kind of smaller horizontal. So this just shows you the different sizes that you can make. And the way that I'm going to talk about it should help you understand how to make any size that you want. To follow the video and to follow maybe the first time through, you can make the size that I'm making, and that is fine. But the way that the directions are written, it is going to help you make any size book that you want. So you can see it's the same structure. This one, I think the paste down is stuck down right there. But yeah, this is another one. And so they're very similar. They're just blank books on the inside, and they have these color end sheets and the white text paper, although this can be a color text paper as well. It doesn't have to be white or off-white or anything. It could be whatever. I've made books with black pages in them, which is fun because then you can write with gel pens or with a white color pencil or chalk on the pages. So that's kind of cool to do. Okay, so this is just to show you the different sizes. And so now I'm going to go down the materials list and just kind of show you the materials, the loose uncut materials, and then just to give you a sense of what you need, which I think you know if you've done the drum leaf book. It's a similar structure as far as the materials are concerned. However, it is not the same book and it's not put together in the same way. So please watch the video for the tutorial of how to do this, and don't try to just wing it with what you think you know with the drum leaf, because it is not the same structure. They do look similar. So like, just to show you that this is the drum leaf book. It doesn't have as many pages in it. It doesn't really have a drape to it like these pages. This is a book, when you see this, everybody knows what kind of thing this is. This is a book that everybody recognizes as a book. This book sort of looks similar to that, but you can see it's a different kind of structure. These pages are sewn together and they're cased into the case. This is actually made all at once and then covered. So the spine gets glued on tightly to the book, whereas that's not the case here. This is not attached in that way. So it is different. So don't think you can use those same processes, even though the materials are similar. Okay, so let's go down the list. You need your text block text block pages. That's Mohawk paper. So if you use those big sheets of Mohawk, you can tear down 2.5 full sheets into eighths. So that'd be 2 sheets into eighths and then 1 into fourths. So half a sheet. So that's the big Mohawk sheets if you want to do that. And that's what I've got here is these. They're torn down into the eighths here. So this is going to be a section. So I'll take 4 sheets, drag them together, and then this is going to get folded, and that's going to be a section. So total, you're going to need 20 sheets that are like this, just like loose sheets, 20 sheets. And then they're going to be folded in sections of 4 sheets. So you're going to have a total of 5 sections of 4 sheets each. So 5 times 4 is 20. That's 20 sheets total, 5 sections of 4 sheets, folded and trimmed to your chosen size. And so my size is going to be this 5.5 by 4.25. So I will take 4 sheets at a time, fold it in half, and I'm going to do this. Of course, I'm just talking about the materials right now. Fold it, and then I will use my template to cut all of them. And I'll show you, we'll do it all at once. But this is my stack of paper. And again, you can use, at this point in the semester, you may be out of that Mohawk paper if you used it for other stuff or whatever. You can use the Canson paper as your interior pages if you have enough of that. You can use text paper. You can just fold sheets of like computer paper in sets of 4, fold them in half, and cut your pieces out of that. That will only be 4.25 wide because it's 8.5 by 11. And when you fold that 8.5 in half, you get 4.25. So you can do that like we've done for the pamphlets. But yeah, so you can use different paper. That's the point. You don't have to use this Mohawk, but this is a nice text weight paper to use. The end sheet pages you're going to use your Canson paper. So I've already folded mine, and I'm not prepping like because I've already shown you guys how to prep paper, how to tear it down and stuff. So I've kind of just gone through my scrap pile and pulled things that I can use. And so you're going to nest 2 sheets together, and I just know that this is going to fit, that I can use this for my template like this, and I can trim out of that. So that's 2 sheets folded together, and that's 2 sheets folded together. This is just a bigger piece that I had, and I'll cut out of that. So at this point in the semester, when you start getting low on your materials, you kind of have to go through and, just not to be wasteful, you can use offcuts and things. And as long as you know that your template's going to fit, you should be fine with whatever you pulled together. So this is going to be my text block and my end sheets, just that white paper and my end sheets right there. So that's what you're going to use for that. And then you need binder's board. So that's for my template. And then I have another piece of binder's board that I can get to. It's going to be slightly, I need my boards to be slightly taller than this one, but a little skinnier. And I'll get into all of those details. I just know that I can get 2 out of this. So I'm going to use that board, the binder's board. So I need 2 pieces of that. And again, that might be determined by what size book. Like, because I'm making a sort of small book, I know I can get the material I need out of it. But if you want to make a taller book, you need a bigger piece of board and a wider piece of board. So just make sure you've got enough for what you want to do. The spine piece is the Bristol card, the folder card, and you're just going to need a little skinny piece that's as wide as the text block, basically around that size. So you just need a little strip, and you just need a piece out of that card. Mulberry lining. That's going to be your Japanese paper, and you're going to need a couple of pieces of this. And this is just the offcuts, if you remember, on the drum leaf. You're going to need a spine lining for the text block, and you're going to need a little flange. And I'm going to keep that piece because it's the right width. It needs to be about 2.5 to 3 inches. I know that this is wide enough though, and that's what I'm going to use. But the normal size of a mulberry flange is usually about the height of the text block minus an inch, and the thickness of the text block spine plus an inch. So whatever the width of of the sewn text block is, plus another inch should give you enough. And a lot of times I'll just default to like 3 inches wide. That's probably more than you need because you're going to trim it down before we case it in. And it's something that's inside when we make the book. It's actually in, you can't see it on that one. You can see it a little bit in here. There's a little bit of the flange right there. Underneath, it's glued inside. The lap component, this is, you just need a piece of text weight paper with the grain direction running long on it. And this is going to be the height of your boards and then like 3 inches wide. So you just need that enough to get a strip of paper that's going to be big enough for your book. So you should have that lap component. And then the paper covers, this is just like anything. You just need 2 pieces that are going to be tall enough to fit your book. And, you know, again, I go back to my template. And if it's taller than my template, I'm fine. As far as turning it in, I have enough width and height of this piece. So I'm going to use this paper one more time and cover my boards with that. So that's my cover paper. And then I have a strip of book cloth that I just happen to have. And I know that's more than enough height. So going over these materials quickly like that, and because I'm at the point in the semester where you guys have done this stuff before, that's why I'm kind of being more casual about it and not being so strict. I want you guys to experiment with making something that's your own design and your own size. So what I would suggest doing before you start to prepare any of your materials is look at what you've got and think about the size that you could get out of that material. You may have plenty of stuff and you have all kinds of size, you can have all kinds of size choices, but look at what you've got, look at your materials, and then determine, make yourself a template like this so that you can cut all of your pieces, because that's going to be key. Every measurement we make is going to be based on that text block. So whatever height you decide to make your text block, which is this interior piece here, whatever height and width this is going to determine the rest of your materials that you cut. And so if you don't have a lot of tall materials, maybe you want to make a short, wide little book like this. But if you have, you know, plenty of material, maybe you want to make a book this size, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to be talking about this 5.5 by 4 1/4, but I'm also going to be talking about it as I do the tutorial in terms of just the size of your text block. So I think you'll have an opportunity, maybe not the first time through. If you feel more comfortable just following the 5.5 by 4 1/4, that's fine. But I would like you to be able to look at this again in the future and be able to make any size book that you're interested in. Okay, so that covers the materials. So this is that handout that you guys can download or look at on Canvas, but this is the list of materials. And then on the back of this is a little illustration diagram of the components of the book. So the text block and the sewing that we're going to do. So you will need a needle and thread. You'll need your punch, your awl, and then it shows you the different sections that you need and how many of those that we're going to use. This is the uncovered case without any of the materials covering it. The book cloth and the decorative paper is not on this piece. And this is also in color on the PDF that or the JPEG that I sent you guys, or that you can look at. This is a partially covered case here, just illustrated. And then the finished book is here. This is the finished text block with the linings on it. And then this is the finished book when it's cased in. So you can see it looks similar to that. It has this little built-in groove, which is a nice little touch to the book, and it makes it look really good. So we're going to make one. And that's the next part of this, is going to be preparing the materials. So I like to have this printed out so that I can refer to the list and make sure I'm going through and getting all of the stuff ready so that I can prep it and then be ready to sew the book, punch and sew it as the next step. So I'm going to pause the video for now, get my workspace cleared up, and then I will start prepping the materials. Okay. All right. Okay. So the first part that we're going to do is prepping the text block. And I'm realizing now that I think I'm probably going to have to make another prep video that is after we sew, because a lot of the other materials, not the text block, but all of the case materials, have to be based and measured from the finished text block. So we actually have to make the text block and then make the case because we have to measure from that finished piece. So I'm going to prep the materials right now for the text block. Then I'm going to make a video showing you how to sew that together. And then I'll make a materials prep for the case, and then we'll case it in. So there's going to be a few videos here for this process, because this is the most complex book, just as far as the number of materials and the number of steps that it takes to put this thing together. Okay, so I've got my set of end sheets here, and so I need 2 sets of 2, and they're nested and folded together. So I would have like my flat sheets unfolded, and I'll jog them together and then fold them in half as a set of 2. And this is my other set of 2 here. Okay, so those are folded and set to the side. Then I'm going to make I have 20 sheets of paper here, and I'm going to make my 5 sets of 4 sheets each. So I just count out 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I just want to make sure that the grain is running here, so that when I fold them together, that's the way they want to go. So I've got 4 sheets, and then I fold that together into a group. And again, you know, I'm kind of being a little rough about this, because what I'm concerned about is being able to get this cut out of it. And so I just needed my material to be bigger than my finished size. That's why I say go ahead and make that decision ahead of time. So then you, and look at what you have. You do have to make kind of dual decisions as you're looking at your materials that you have, and then the size that it's going to be. You have to double check that. Okay, so there's one section. I add it over there with my end sheets. They're kind of off camera there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 again. 4, and then fold those in half. And so I'm not even worried if that's straight, because I know I have plenty of room here to get my section cut like that. So I have all this excess, and so I'm not super worried if everything's perfectly square out here. And then 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, jog them together, I mean loosely, and then fold it in half. Like that. And then 4 again, 3, 4, fold it. And then the last 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's my sections all folded. So I want to take a second before I trim this down. I'm just going through and making sure I've got everything. And I'm going to bone fold it just to make sure that this is tight and I'm squeezing out any air. I would also suggest, if you have a nipping press, which you don't, probably, that you can take the whole stack and nip it, which is to just squeeze. There's a press that works with a big screw in the center and a handle, and you tighten it down and press anything in between underneath it. So that's what a nipping press is and does, but we don't have that. So I'm just going to use a bone folder for this step. I'll just grab that. And then I'm just going to go through the stack and pretty firmly bone fold that down. There's one that's been folded, bone folded, and here's one that hasn't been. See if you can see the difference. It's just a tighter fold. So that one's been done. And then I just go down and bone fold. And so I use my Teflon folder. That helps with any burnishing to prevent that. But if you just do it gently, you can also just take a piece of paper on top to prevent any burnishing if you're worried about that. So I'm just going over this firmly and tightly, but trying not to burnish too much. This is going to make it easier to cut too, because when I lay the board on top, it's going to not puff, it's not going to be puffy. And I am going to go get my board to jog up against so that I can cut things straight. Okay, so here's everything bone folded in the back here, and that makes a better stack for punching and sewing. So I'm going to go get my board, and then I'm going to do my trimming. So let me pause and I'll come right back. All right. So I went and got my board and a weight to just hold that in place while I'm doing this part. And so now I've got to go through, and we did this when we did the pamphlet books early on in the semester. We trimmed out these sections with this exact same process. So we're going to do this again. This time we're just going to be sewing all these sections together to make that multi-section flat back. But it's the same process. So I'm going to just go down my stack. And again, I'm just making sure that my folded edge is up against the board. And then I put my board in place. And again, I just want to make sure I have a sharp knife. And I'm pretty sure I recently changed the blade, so I'm going to go with it. So once I get this folded edge against the board, and I put my board down on top of it against this board, I've got my folded edge, and then I'm using the binder's board template to cut. I'm going to move this out of my way. So I just back that up out of my way, and now I'm just going to cut. So and I'm just trying to make sure that I'm pushing up against the edge of my board. And because I've got a good blade, that was a lot easier to do. And then I had messed up a little bit there, but I just got closer and cleaned it up. So that one's done, cut. A good blade makes all the difference in the world. That was so much easier than I done before, where I didn't have a good blade in. Okay, I can just I have plenty of excess here. So you can see it's too tall. So again, I just move this out of my way. So I'm going ahead and cutting all of the cuts in one direction and then making all of the cuts this way. And then all of the cuts across the bottom. Those are the end sheet sections done. And now I can come. And I'm just kind of jogging it back to that fold to make sure everything's in place. And then get that out of the way. You just got to keep your hand pressure on it and it should be all right. Now I'm going to have to cut more because it's more pages. Make more passes through. So that took me 3. It took 2 on that one, and this is going to be 3. Made a little bit of a miscut down there. Pull that. I didn't cut all the way through right here. Yeah, it's just up at the corner. And then here I can tell the knife kind of moved, so I'm gonna try to clean that up. So if you just keep holding in place, you can always correct any little miscut that you make, especially if it was too big, you can correct that. And I go through the next one. So for this process, I'm going to pull this a little bit closer to myself because I'm having a hard time seeing it. For this process, we would normally use a Kutrimmer to cut everything, which is a brand of a cutting, like a board shear. It's not a board shear, but it's a paper trimmer. And that's really helpful. It speeds it up. But this is, you don't have to invest in that kind of equipment to be able to make these books, which is good to know. It just takes a little bit of time. Oops, I keep pulling the knife away from the board at the bottom because, that's not a normal way to cut, because the thing I'm pushing against is above the knife, which is not normally the case. So that does make it a little harder. hold it down firm, scoot that out of the way, cut. Kind of nicked the corner of the board there, but it's okay. Ugh, keep doing it. I did it again. I think I'm going to flip this over so that I don't keep cutting that. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I can't make an adjustment now because I'm in the middle of cutting this section, but so I keep nicking this corner of the board. So I'm going to move this out, but this time I'm going to put it so that that corner is at the back. So I'm just going to flip the board over so that I don't make a little angle at the top. Put that here and then push this away. So hopefully I won't make another cut. It's just hard not to do that when you're cutting with a knife right up against binder's board. So here I'm just going to try to make sure pull straight down instead of at an angle. And then one more. So this is almost as many, it's just one more. No, it's more than that. It's because we cut four, no, only three, no, four sections when we were doing the pamphlet book. So we've done a little bit more this time. There's 7 sections if you include the end sheets. But we've done it. All right, that's all our sections done. So this is what you should have in the end. Just get that out of the way. 2 end sheet sections of 2 sheets each, one on the front and one on the back here like this, and then 5 sections of 4 sheets each, and they should all be the same size, whatever you decide that's going to be. So this is a 5.5 by 4 1/4, as I've said. And now we're going to punch and sew the text block. That's going to be the next bit. So I'm going to hold off on the prep. I'll have to make another prep video for that. I forgot that you can't cut all the materials ahead of time because you have to take measurements from this. So that's what we're going to do next, is sew this text block to get punch and sew the text block. So you're going to need your thread, your awl, and the ability to punch. And this time I'm going to just do it on the tabletop, and you're going to make a little jig for punching and all of that. So that'll be the next video, is punching and sewing the text block. Okay. All right. Getting there. Thanks.